Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Bandholtz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. I hope all is well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the Internet from me, Jeff Oxford, man. Welcome.
Eric, it is a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. We were actually hanging out, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, over in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale at Sellers Summit with Steve Chu's little event that he puts on. Is it Chu? It's Chu, right?
I think it's Steve Chu. Yeah, we were rival speakers. We were competing for the same time slot.
I know. Yeah, I was speaking to an empty room because I think everyone was.
You're being too modest.
No. Yeah, so if y'all don't know Steve, he was with My Wife Quit Her Job podcast, content source. He's also been a guest of E-Commerce Conversations. And then, we were talking some good SEO stuff. And I figured, man, I don't know the last time I talked SEO on this podcast. Is it still relevant? I mean, of course, you're biased, but
sure.
Should people still be doing SEO?
You know, it's the funniest thing, Eric. So SEO used to be all the rage. Everyone was doing SEO. Everyone was talking about SEO. But I'd say back in the early 2012 to 2015, Google started going on their penalty spree. And all these sites that were killing it with SEO that just kind of hired your either overseas or low quality SEOs. It worked really well for a time, but then these businesses were losing 30, 40, sometimes 80% of their traffic from these penalties. And after that, I haven't heard many people talk about SEO as much. I think a lot of people got burned by it and they think it's just kind of like this black box, kind of scammy, whatever. And it doesn't get the publicity that it used to get back in the day.
I was at a conference one time and I heard a kind of like a SEO guy talk about how he would go to Google, search for a term, click on a competitor's website, and then quickly exit out of that and do that for a couple of them, and then eventually settle on, the intended page, and then, of course, browse on that for a long time. And to me, that's kind of, is that black hat or is that gray hat? It's definitely not white hat.
It's not white hat. I mean, if you ask Google, they'll probably say black hat. But, it's really funny because Google's looking at, Google owns Chrome. They own Android. They know exactly who's clicking on what websites, how long they're staying on the website, if they're hitting the back button. And they got, a pipeline of data on how users are interacting with websites. So if they see these pages have lots of bounces, they're using that as a ranking factor. So there's actually bots and services, if you decide to go that route, where you can have bots, search a bunch of keywords and then just click on your listing and do this hundreds or thousands of times, which can work, but it's not necessarily a question of if, but when Google's going to drop the hammer and you can get hit with some type of spam penalty.
Yeah. I've got some new entrepreneurs in here. Give them a quick rundown of what is white hat, what is black hat, what is gray hat for those who might not know.
So Google has their official webmaster guidelines, which says hey, if you have a website, these are things you shouldn't do from a search engine optimization standpoint. Things like, create great content, have a user-friendly website, have a mobile website that's responsive, all these things that's, good SEO best practices. Then you get the opposite realm of that, which is black hat, which back in the day, your typical black hat stuff would be having keywords on your site hundreds of times, but having the text in a white font on white background, so you couldn't see it, but it was in there, and people would do that and rank really well. And there's a bunch of other black hat tactics, like getting thousands or hundreds of backlinks from WordPress blog comment spam, or just posting links to your website and a bunch of forums, or signing up for a whole bunch of forums and in your profile having a link to your website. So these are all things that provide no value to the web, just loaded up with more spam, are intended to manipulate Google's rankings, and will get you penalized if you're not careful. So that's black hat. Gray hat's kind of it's the thing that a lot of people do, but may or may not violate Google's guidelines. So it's like, for example, let's talk about like, let's say I had a website that made beard oil, hypothetically, okay? And I want to get links for my beard oil. I could go find a bunch of beard bloggers, send them my free beard oil. They could write an article about this awesome beard oil that I sent them and include a link back to my website. Now, technically, Google says, oh, you shouldn't give product in exchange for links. But, do they know that I sent it to them, or do they know that they just found it on their own and linked to it? So that kind of falls into the gray hat, where technically you can make an argument that it's against Google's guidelines and it's black hat. But also, from a PR play, there's nothing wrong with putting your product in the hands of influencers to get them to talk about it. So that would be an example of like a typical gray hat type strategy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That would fall under gray hat. What about like affiliate programs?
So affiliate programs, Google's really good at detecting if link is an affiliate link. So typically every affiliate link will have like a tracking ID at the end. So, AF equals Eric Bandholz, and they know you're the affiliate. So if they can, they know Commission Junction, Share a Sale, they know all the big affiliate programs out there. So they're really good at finding an affiliate link and just not counting it. And just so you can get affiliate link on like a domain rating 80 site that's really powerful. Well, that's not going to do you any good because Google's going to identify it. However, there are some affiliate programs that don't use tracking codes on the URLs. Instead, it's like coupon code based. So, the coupon code is what triggers the affiliate commission, and you can send them to whatever page you want. So there are a few affiliate programs that can actually get past Google by using coupon codes instead of tracking codes on the URL. But I'd say the vast majority of affiliate programs are using that parameter tracking code based system.
So it wouldn't necessarily hinder you though. That wouldn't like kind of penalize.
You're not going to get penalized for it. It's just going to discount it. It's like it was never there from an SEO standpoint.
Yeah. So you would want to think about affiliates from the purpose of building an affiliate network, not from a purpose of generating links and.
Yep.
In today's environment, is that still the strategy? Is it just a matter of links and then like good website navigation, good content building?
Yeah. If I were to like overly simplify SEO into like 4 buckets, bucket number 1 is link building. That can have a huge impact on your site. And what I say is, even if you have the most perfectly optimized website that's mobile friendly, loads blazing fast, has all the keywords in all the right places and the best content, if you don't have enough backlinks, you're probably still going to get outranked by your competitors. It's just what we see time and time again in Google. So number 1 is getting, when I say backlinks, it's getting other websites to link to your website. So that's bucket number 1. Next is content. You want to make sure you have well-written, good content on your pages that provides, some value to your users. So if you're an e-commerce site, you want to make sure your top category pages have at least some content on it. If your product pages, you want to make sure those have, ideally unique content. It can be difficult if you're like a drop shipper or a reseller, and it can be tempting to just use that manufacturer's kind of default product description, but rewriting it can go a long way. And then also blog content can also help drive traffic and in some cases drive revenue. So that's the content bucket. Next is your typical like page optimization of let's get the keyword in the title tag and the meta description and the header tag, kind of your typical page optimization. The last bucket is technical SEO. For example, if you have a category page and you click sort by price and it changes the URL, we want to make sure that Google doesn't treat that as an entirely different page and it's all kind of considering it one page. So there's definitely the technical side of SEO where there's no duplicate content. The site's loading fast, it's mobile friendly. And yeah, those are like the 4 buckets that you can pretty much put any SEO task into.
So how you break it down, is that how you should focus on your energy too? Is like number 1 is like, how do I generate more links? Number 2 is how do I build better content? Number 3 is just kind of, I kind of lump 3 and 4 together. It's just like the technical.
Yeah, and a lot of people, you can just your on-page technical mumble jumbo.
I feel like most people focus all their energy on like 3 and 4, where that's probably, is it the smallest thing that's going to move the needle?
I'm so glad you asked that question because a lot of people just jump into SEO, think they need all the buckets when they might only need one or two of the buckets. So, for example, if you're on Shopify, Shopify is very SEO friendly. You're probably not going to have much technical SEO issues. Whereas if you're on like an older cart like Yahoo stores, or maybe even you have Magento out of the box, or some of the other legacy platform, or even a custom platform, especially with a custom platform, you're going to run into lots of technical issues. So yeah, if you're on a Shopify site, you can usually focus on some of the other buckets. Or let's say you're a large brand, and you have a really big authority, like you're a domain authority, 60 or 70, you probably don't need that many more backlinks. Your time's better spent on content and page optimization. So it's one of the most important things that's often skipped when someone wants to do SEO is they think they need everything. They think they need blog content, and they think they need link building, and they think they need technical SEO, and they think they need page optimization. They might, but a good SEO consultant who's worth their salt should at least assess, like, what does your site need, instead of taking what we commonly see, which is like the one size fit all. It's like, oh, if you sign up for our silver tier, you get this many blog posts and this many pages optimized and this many backlinks, which it's something, but you might end up paying for things you don't actually need. So it's always important to first assess, like, look at your site through these lenses and then determine what you need, and only focus on the initiatives that are going to move the needle and drive traffic for you.
Yeah. Let's talk about, like, there's really two strategies when I think about e-commerce owners. One is learning how to do this yourself. Mm-hmm. And one is learning how to find a good firm who can execute it. If you're going to do this yourself, what are like the first resource guides you should go to? What kind of tools should you use to be able to kind of tackle this project?
So as far as resource and guides go, I'd say the best resources that have the most actionable, easy to learn, beginner-friendly information is going to be backlinko.com. This was created by Brian Dean, who he wrote so much good information and makes it all free. I'd say that he alone has kind of elevated the bar of the SEO industry with just like new ways and doing things better and more efficiently. Another great source that I always recommend is Ahrefs. No one really knows for sure, but it's ahrefs.com. They have an amazing blog with really actionable content, but they also have a really good YouTube channel that just will hold your hand, break things down. Every single concept about SEO you could ever have questions on, they break it down and make it really easy step by step. So between those two resources, you have the best information, the most easily to digest information. It really demystifies and simplify SEO. As far as tools go, Ahrefs about a year ago released what they call Ahrefs Webmaster Tools. So Ahrefs, just taking a step back for a second, they have their own index of the web. They can show you every site that's linking to your website. They can show you every keyword your site's ranking for, but also every keyword your competitors are ranking for. They also have a handy tool that will crawl your entire website and tell you every single technical issue that you need. So they have pretty much everything you need to be successful in each of these SEO buckets that we talked about before. But a year ago, what they did is they created a free version called Ahrefs Webmaster Tools. So all you have to do is connect your Google Search Console to Ahrefs, and they will give you all the information they have for your site. So you can see every keyword your site's ranking for. You can see every backlink your site has, and you'll even get a free audit using their audit tool. So it's probably the best value you can get if you're just starting and you don't want to invest too much money in the tools. You can just read some of their guides, watch some of their videos, and test out their tool.
And then when you're looking to work with an SEO firm, what kind of questions do you need to be asking, and how do you kind of make sure you don't end up in this black hat bucket hole where you end up in 3 months getting penalized, or 6 months, or whatever it is?
So I'll also answer this. I know a few minutes ago you were asking, seems like everyone's focusing on buckets 3 and 4. They're focusing on the page optimization, the technical optimization, but they're not focused as much as on the link building side. And part of that is because link building is the most important, but also probably the most difficult and complex side of SEO. It's very hard to get other sites to link to you, whereas it's not that hard to go into a page, change the title tag. It's not that hard to update the meta description. It's not hard to do an audit and make a few technical changes. You can have, an SEO company could have their developer, their SEO specialist do it within, a week or a few weeks. So the reason I'm saying this is a lot of SEO companies will try to steer the ship towards their capabilities. They'll be like, oh, we're going to do meta optimization, every single month, and we're going to do all these more and more technical audits and more technical reports, which again, it might be what your site needs. But if you have a newer site with a lower domain authority, and all they're doing is focusing on tweaking title tags and providing technical audits, it doesn't matter how many times they change the metadata or how many times they do a tech audit, you're not going to rank well because you just don't have enough backlinks. So I say, make sure that if you're talking with an SEO provider, ask more about, how do you build backlinks? Do you have examples of backlinks that you could show me so I know what to expect? What strategies do you use? I'd say most SEO agencies have strong capabilities around optimizing a page and doing the technical side. I think what really separates the okay ones from the good ones and the great ones is what's their link building capabilities and what's their content capabilities. So I think asking for samples ahead of time, both on link building, but also content. Can you say like, hey, show me the types of blog posts that we should expect? Like, have you done this for other clients? Could I see how you're structuring it? Is this just like overseas low quality content, or even worse, is this just like AI generated content that was just kind of briefly edited? Or does this look like they can provide some value and it's something you'd be proud putting on your site? From what I hear, some of the biggest complaints people have about their SEO company is the content's terrible. It doesn't match their style and tone. It's just aim for keywords with no real user intent behind it, or doesn't capture the brand's message. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that would be good to discuss up front if ever you're talking with an SEO provider.
Yeah, I almost like when I think of the content strategy, I almost feel like a hybrid approach is probably, in my opinion, as a leader, like the better strategy, where you work with an SEO firm is like, give me the topics that I need to write about, because I don't want to go into Ahrefs and look at what all the keywords are and what all the opportunity is. And then I'll work with a copywriter to do it in our brand, and we'll produce it, and we'll kind of make sure that it's titled properly based on your blueprint. And, it's kind of like the best of both worlds, where you're able to share that expertise in an authentic way that helps your audience, and then making sure that you're working on the things that will have the biggest impact. Because I think that so much of entrepreneurship is just being able to prioritize your resources in a way that is most impactful to least impactful.
Yeah, what you just described, Derek, is like the most ideal situation, because the brand or the client is typically going to have the best industry knowledge. They live and breathe this type of stuff. There's no way an SEO company like mine could ever write content as well as a client who lives and breathes this stuff every single day. We won't be able to go in depth. But at the same time, your typical brand or client, it might be difficult for them to determine which topics can bring in lots of SEO traffic, which are ones that are topics that are highly popular that people are searching for, but aren't too competitive and they could rank fairly easily. And then maybe even looking at the conversion potential for some of these topics. So that's something an SEO company should be able to do pretty easily, is say, hey, we did our research. Here's a list of the top 40 topics we think you should write about, prioritized by SEO opportunity. And then we're taking a step further, what we've had a lot of success with, instead of having our team write the content, is we'll actually create like a content brief. It's like, okay, make sure you answer these questions in the content. Make sure you mention these keywords in the content. And here's some guidelines on how much or how few times to mention those keywords. So I think, providing the SEO strategy and the kind of that layer of SEO to the brand and having them take it the rest of the way, that sort of hybrid model seems to work really well.
I had this idea. I've never executed on it, but I wanted to create like an app that would, in my industry, like do a time lapse of people growing their beards out, and then for them to be able to share it on, whatever place with a link back to Beard Brand. Like we'd host the video on beardbrand.com. Would that strategy be a good strategy from like a link building perspective, to have like essentially a lot of people with no authority linking to your website versus, maybe trying to go after like a GQ in MySpace, or like a Men's Health, or like a more notable publication?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I would say is there's a lot of things Google's looking at when it's valuing how impactful a backlink should be. One of which you talked about is like authority. If GQ links to you, that has way more authority and it's going to have a much larger impact on your rankings than if somebody started a site a month ago and then they're linking to you and they have no notability, they're brand new, no backlink. So authority is one of the biggest signals that can dictate how powerful and how valuable a link is, but it's not the only one. Relevancy is huge. If a site is more relevant, that's also going to be very important. So going back to your example, let's say there's a bunch of like these niche kind of like beard, facial hair, male grooming websites that maybe they're not that authoritative, but you got a domain rating in the 20s or 30s, and they're linking to you. I would say that's just as valuable as having like, maybe you got featured in Forbes or Huffington Post or some of these big publications. Sure, they have high authority, but they got low relevancy. Whereas these niche sites, they might have low authority, but they have high relevancy. So I'd say, from my perspective, they're probably about equal because one satisfies relevancy, the other authority. So I'd say both plays would be awesome, and don't discount the small players.
But what about this idea of like creating almost like an app where it's just people posting on Twitter and Facebook, and you're generating like hundreds of thousands of links or something like that, but they're essentially zero authority, like they're on social media and they're on forums and things like
that. That's the tricky part. Like Google's pretty good at not counting social media links towards SEO. So if you get lots of mentions on Twitter or Facebook, it's okay. Here's where it gets a little confusing, because the link itself isn't going to have an impact on rankings. They have what's called a no follow attribute, which means Google's not going to follow them. It's not going to provide any SEO juice. But we've seen a number of times that lots of social shares correlate high with rankings. So like if you have a page in your site where you feature this, maybe you have this app, or you feature some really cool piece of content, it gets shared hundreds of thousands of times. Typically what you see is that content starts to rank well. And here's the unknown thing that only Google knows is, does the shares on Facebook and Twitter, is that what's increasing the rankings for the page? Or is it the fact that if a piece of content gets shared a lot, it's often going to get more exposure, more reach, and then bloggers will see it and then they'll link to it, and it's the links that's helping it rank better. So no one knows for sure, but either way, we see time and time again, if something does get a lot of notoriety and publicity on social media, it typically will rank better.
What do you see e-commerce owners doing that are effective ways of generating links?
So some of the ones that work really well, I mentioned product reviews before. You can call it white hat, you can call it gray hat, but if you have a really good product that people love, if you can get it in the hands of bloggers, everyone wants free stuff. So if you can say, hey, I found your blog, I'd be more than happy to send you some free beard oil in exchange for an honest review of your blog. Is this something you might be interested in? Like that type of pitch can work really well. And you send it to them, they write about it, they might take some photos, make an article, and then link back to your site. So especially for e-commerce sites, that can work really, really well. So that's one thing that can be a good way of not just attracting backlinks, but even getting more brand awareness and referral traffic. So if you can get two birds with one stone, that's going to be great. Some other things that we've seen work really well, guest posting has been around for a while. Basically, guest posting, you find a relevant site, you write an article on that site, and since you're the one writing an article, you have more control over where the link's going to. So you can have a link going to one of your product pages or one of your category pages. You just got to be careful with guest posting because it's definitely been abused. People will kind of buy a blog and just turn into like a guest post farm where 100% of the articles are just guest posts and they charge people for it. So you got to be careful for those. Look for blogs in your industry that have a good reputation, that are actual like blogs, that aren't just every site's a guest post. And you can tell, like, if this site's, if I'm trying to get my beard oil on, write articles about male grooming and how it's changed over the years on the site, I'm looking at it. If they're also linking to like home loans, debt consolidation, pharmaceuticals, maybe that's not the type of site you want to be in. So stick to kind of relevant ones. So number 2 would be guest posting. Number 3, I'm doing it right now, podcasts. If you can, most podcasts will have a show notes page, and if the podcast site has decent authority, you can get a good link from that podcast page. So there's so many podcasts out there. You can do some research of what are the most notable podcasts in your industry. And then the last strategy I'll mention, well, we got a few more quick ones I'll just rattle off, is turning your discount codes into links. So like we found, especially with COVID, if you create a discount code just for like first responders or just for nurses or just for military and veterans, there's so many communities and groups online that are trying to support these groups. And if you can promote that discount code to different blogs and websites that are trying to support these audiences, then that can also help attract backlinks. And then the last one I'll mention is just content marketing. Create great content on your site, promote it to bloggers, get in front of bloggers. But you want to make sure that, typically what I found is content that is attractive to customers isn't always what's attractive to bloggers. So see what are the bloggers talking about and create content that they might be interested in linking to.
I'll add one additional one in, which might be a little more challenging. But if you build a pretty cool company and pretty cool brand, the tools that you use, you can kind of do case studies. So like we used to be on like Klaviyo.com when they would talk about Beard Brand. And they may not even have a link, but getting that kind of exposure. A ShipStation is like a commercial that's been running for us on like, television, which again, I did that thinking it would just be like a web case study. And they turned it into a TV commercial that's kind of paid dividends for us as well. So it's just, there are kind of like these, unthought about link building strategies that you could have that maybe aren't entirely like applicable to your audience, and they may not be the strongest link per se, but I feel like any link is a good link in my opinion, especially for something that has pretty good domain authority.
Yeah, that can work really well. We call it testimonial link building, where you just see like, make a list of every tool you use and every app for your website, and then just reach out and say, hey, I love your tool. You want a testimonial? And like you said, Eric, a great way to get some good quality links.
Beard Brand, we've been around for 10 years now. And I feel like from an SEO perspective, our website is probably industry leading or close to it. What do you need to think about? Like if you do get on top, do you still have to be ruthless and continuously building content and links? Is it something that Google will see if you become inactive and they slow things down? I mean, like what is the thought process and the strategy you need to have as a more established brand and company?
Yeah, I'm guessing Beard Brand has probably gotten lots of publicity over the years and lots of PR, which, by the way, PR is a great way to get backlinks. So, you guys have become kind of an industry leader through just your exposure and all the good things that you're doing. Once you get to that point, especially, I know Beard Brand's probably a smaller size catalog. You don't have like hundreds or thousands of SKUs. It's kind of just a few core products. For that, I'd say that the best thing to go would just be kind of content marketing. There's so many questions people have around, beards and beard oil and facial hair and male grooming. So I'd say, once you're kind of filled up to the top of that link building bucket, and there's really not much more you need to do from a technical page optimization bucket, the last bucket that's kind of left to fill, which can be a very deep bucket, is just creating content for related topics and keywords that your customers are searching for.
Yeah. And then once that's done, do you update the articles, or like how do you manage a catalog of thousands of articles?
Yeah, I'd say updating old content can be really effective. What you can do is look at your analytics and see like, which of my blog posts over the last, 3 to 5 years have kind of fallen off, where they're not driving as much traffic where they used to be, that maybe rankings have slipped a bit. Google has a part of its algorithm where it looks at the freshness of an article. So if you have an old article and that used to be killing it, performing really well, driving lots of traffic, maybe even some revenue, and you notice it's been slipping, just by going in and updating it, maybe adding another section or two, if it's linking to broken sites, old dead sites, fixing that, just by making those improvements to the website, that alone can have a positive impact on ranking. So just updating content, that's going to help, but updating it with like now more sections, it's more comprehensive. You're kind of getting both the benefit of having a more comprehensive page and a more updated page, and that can help your rankings quite a bit.
Any misconceptions that people have about SEO and kind of expectations for how it can impact the business?
Yeah, I'd say some of the misconceptions I hear is people always think you need to create content, like create fresh content. Oh, you want to rank for your keywords, like keep creating fresh content, which is partly true, but it's kind of a fallacy. So for example, if I wanted to rank for beard oil, just writing, dozens of articles about beard oil is not going to help me rank better for beard oil. I mean, it'll have a positive impact, but again, you don't sleep on link building, don't sleep on other things. And what I notice a lot of sites will do is they'll just almost create content for the sake of creating content where there's no strategy behind it. They're not like targeting any particular keywords. And if you look, you look into analytics, you have a bunch of posts that probably aren't driving traffic and are almost definitely not driving revenue. So I'd say content creation is important, but make sure there's that strategy piece to it. Make sure you understand, why are you doing this? Are you creating this post because it's targeting a keyword that can convert and drive revenue? Are you building this post to just kind of educate your customers and help out your customer service team? Are you writing this post because a lot of people are searching for it? So just make sure you're asking yourself why you, like, of all the topics, why are we doing this one? And have a good answer. And if you don't have a good answer, maybe it's a sign that content's not the best fit for you right now.
I know the answer to this is going to be it depends. But with that being said, if I could talk to an entrepreneur who wants to get into SEO, they want to do content marketing, producing content. From a general perspective, how many pieces of content should they be producing a month? And what is the expectation for the length of that content?
Well, I would say, of course, it depends. It varies by industry. But if we want to at least get some actionable guidelines, in general, I'd say it's much better to have one amazing piece of content per month than just something that's good enough per week. So the web is super saturated with content right now. It's not just the publishers and the blogs that are making content. Almost every e-commerce site has a blog. So you're competing with the whole web. There's a lot of noise out there. The only way you can stand out and get your content to rank and attract backlinks and get shares is to have something that's better than everyone else. And that's not easy to do. If you're just getting into this, it's probably not something you can bang out once per week. Maybe over time, as you get your kind of make it more of a core competency, increase your capabilities. But starting out, I'd say focus on creating one amazing piece of content per month that is well researched, well written, it's thorough, it's comprehensive. Maybe it has some visual elements. That's just like, that this is the best piece of content on whatever topic it is out there. So that's kind of some general guidelines, definitely quality over quantity. As far as the length goes, my suggestion is just look at your competition and see, let's say I want to rank for best beard oil for men, or what is beard oil? Yeah, what is beard oil? Well, what I would do is I'd search what is beard oil into Google. I'd look at maybe the top 3 to 5 sites ranking on page 1. I'd see how many words of content do they have on their sites, just as a benchmark. But more importantly, what I want to do is I want to look at their outline. Like, what are the sections they have on their content? What are the headings and subheadings? And I want to look at this across all 3 to 5 competing pieces of content and combine it all together, so I will have the most thorough list of subsections and headings and outline once I create my content. So that's kind of the best way to get into it is step 1, search your keyword. Step 2, see who's ranking for that keyword. Step 3, take their outline and subheadings. Step 4, combine it all together into your super comprehensive outline, and then start writing the content.
Sweet, man. Where can people reach out to you and hire your services?
Yeah, so 180marketing.com. We only do SEO for e-commerce sites. So we've learned, and we have for the last 10 years. So we've learned all the nuances and interesting stuff that happens with e-commerce. So if you want to learn more, you need help, or you just want to say hi, you can just go to the website or shoot me an email at jeff@180marketing.com.
Are you on Twitter?
Technically, yes, but I don't think I've posted in the last 5 years.
Oh my God, Jeff, you got to get on Twitter, man.
Is that thing still around?
Yeah, it's still around. It's got a pretty good D2C e-commerce community.
Yeah,
but
I'm a noob when it comes to social media.
We won't share your Twitter profile then, because it'll just
okay. Yeah, it'll be embarrassing.
All right, guys, this has been another e-commerce conversations. I hope you enjoyed it and learned as much as I did. Thanks, Jeff, for being on the show.
Thanks, Eric.
Cheers. Keep on growing.